So there's lots of stuff which comes involved in it all, but even in all of that, and that little messy little bit there, Matt, is all coming really from, this side of it all here. And people can put themselves, you can almost create a continuum. If I slide this scale down this way here, you basically get, you've got people who have an involvement which is purely and simply rational, which they have had no previous emotional attachment with at all. You then get maybe organisations who would then give favour to the Melbourne Football Club for all rational reasons, but because they then, they may have an emotional support, or at least know more about the value of the sponsorship. Down to here, it's people who justify, their company maybe buying a box at the footy because they enjoy going to the Melbourne games, but then have but also know that there is really strong, opportunities which come through networking or through, entertaining clients at games, particularly as we start to play big games. You get down to here where you get people who've got this really strong, they almost could tick both areas, they have really strong associations. So people who join supporter groups who, like coteries and traditional groups like that, who have this amazing emotional attachment, but probably also have this business reason for getting involved in it as well. So for them, it's almost, they cover the whole spectrum, right through to the people, down here who buy their membership without fail every year, don't miss a game and buy merchandise. They do whatever they can to try and create to feel as though they're actually part of the club. So the spectrum of what we do at a customer level needs to spread around that. And probably about 50% of our organisation is either directly or indirectly involved in this particular association, but 100% of the organisation buys in on it. And so therefore the players, for instance, have to have a very strong notion of why they do what we do to build a very strong relationship with our membership base and supporter base, and also what they have to do as part of their involvement with our corporate sponsors and corporate partners in regard to that. And we're doing a lot of very, very good work, I think, in this area, and some real growths came out of that through the work of John Poulikakis and Peter Maynard and Tom McClure. We've got some good staff really evolving in this area, as we have in this with a really good team who have worked very hard, including Jen, Fiona, Marty Cox, these guys who have done some fantastic work. So let's understand that's the continuum that we're talking about. But what's the outcome we're seeking? It's a very simple one. And whenever I start in any organisation, you profit, the universal sign, equals volume, times margin. Okay, and so the margin is obviously whatever your revenue is, less your costs. And so people often will focus on volume as one of the outcomes, and quite clearly the key element when it comes to volume is just your supporter numbers, and therefore then it's your percentage conversion, of which at this level Melbourne is the highest in the AFL. And quite clearly the highest in the AFL, which probably says that within the supporter base, we've got people who, there's at least a wealth base which people can actually afford it in the first place, but also they love the sense of association, and there's been some challenges within all that with a number of MCC members who are also footy club, but we've overcome that. It's around 10,000 of the MCC members now are members of the footy club as well. But the real challenge for Melbourne's actually been more about this than that. It's not about just winning the membership ladder, but from a margin point of view, we actually rank quite low, simply because the revenue that we get from our supporter number is a low one, because we've had 150 years of Melbourne supporters coming to the MCG and being able to get a seat pretty well wherever they want to go. So there hasn't been the same scarcity of supply that operates in smaller stadiums. Like when I was at Fremantle, certainly Subiaco Oval provided that. You can see what Geelong have been able to do down at Skilled Stadium. There's a number of things which go with that, and also because of the MCC membership, most of them buy the $50 package, which it's all margin from our point of view, but it is $50 worth of margin, whereas a West Coast Eagles supporter may be paying $400 to $500 for a membership each year, because it entitles to a seat because there's a scarcity of access to seats given the size of their supporter base. So overcoming that circular element of it is again, we've probably within this hit on the two major challenges that our club has actually had, but we're not the first club to face it, and we're going to look to build and create over time means by which we can generate more marginal wealth from within our current structures, and of which we're already starting to achieve through, again, increasing volume. Like, for instance, attendances are up 25% this year. MCC membership attendances is up by 27%. Well, they're terrific numbers when it comes to actually then looking at other opportunities that we can then create. So whenever any business must always look at this. Obviously, I talk about profit and also in the context of the profit model, but always break it down to the very basis of the formula of where you actually, how you make your money, both on the volume of what you sell and the margins within it all. And quite clearly, you always need to keep a really close eye on the cost element. There can be, what you have is you just can get this sort of incremental little growth in costs. You're just adding on little things and little values, which in the end may not in fact be valued that much by your supporters. So you've got to really keep a close eye on that, and there is a lot of creep which can come into your costs if you're not careful. So it's a very simple business when it comes down. There's obviously complexities in regard to how we go about it, but this is the fundamental timeline framework, if you like, in regard to how that would actually operate. Always coming back to this particular formula, and I'm sure there's nothing that new in this particular area, but it's always from a business strategy point of view. Always draw back on how, in fact, you generate your revenue, and if we do better in all of these areas, quite clearly we run a better business and we have more opportunities in regard to spending the money in the areas which give us the most advantage, and that's obviously on the field. So thanks for listening again, and looking for a much better performance this week against the Saints at Etihad Stadium. Take care.